Dolores, do you have this recording?
Yes, it's live and I'm waiting. Ariel just put it live on YouTube, and as soon as she hands it back to me, I can hit the record.
Okay. Sometimes when I usually see that up there, it's recording. Yeah. Okay, sir, I think.
Trustee Miller will hopefully join us when she can. I think that we should move on. I'll call the Thursday, December 3rd, 2020 Board of Trustees special meeting to order. Could we have the roll call, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor Angelo,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Browning,
Present.
Trustee Waugh,
Present.
Trustee Caravas,
Present.
Trustee Rogan,
Present.
Trustee Lowell,
Present.
and Trustee Miller.
Thank you. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
United States of America.
The Republic for which it stands, one
stands,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
indivisible,
and justice for all.
Justice for all. This is our opportunity to take a reflective moment of silence. Let's keep in mind the now 282,000 lives that have been lost to the COVID pandemic and their families. Thank you. Additionally, we had 127 deaths today in Colorado and 6,000 new cases. So everybody, please be careful. Please wear masks, hygiene, wash your hands, and physically distance. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. I move we approve the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'll call for the vote, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Angelo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Browning,
Aye.
Trustee Waugh,
Aye.
Caravas,
Aye.
Trustee Rogan,
Aye.
Trustee Lowell,
Aye. and
Trustee Miller.
Yay.
Welcome, Trustee Miller.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Don't worry about it. Our next item on the agenda is audience business. This is an opportunity for anybody in the audience to address the Board of Trustees on any issue they wish to speak of, other than the issue that we have as a resolution, as there will be a public hearing on that, and you'll have an opportunity to speak at that time. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address the Board of Trustees at this time?
I believe Ian Brighton has his hand up, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brighton, sir, Chairman.
Hi, everyone. My name's Ian Brighton, 322 Evans Street in Lyons. I just wanted to, first of all, offer on a personal level my support for affordable housing in Lyons. I think this is a really important need for the community. So I'm very excited to see that we're on the crossing the final hurdle, as it were, on getting this constructed. I did want to mention that the Parks and Rec Commission drafted a statement showing support for affordable housing and how it could affect town staff potentially living there, which would be a huge benefit, but also that the importance of reconnecting the trail up to the South Ledge ditch. And I currently don't see that in the proposal, and I'm hoping that the board can work with the developer to ensure
Mr.
that
Brighton,
some
Mr.
sort of.
If your comments are regarding the amendment specifically, I'd ask you hold those until the public hearing. If they're about
I'm sorry.
affordable housing generally, then feel free to speak.
Oh, I understand. So there's going to be a public comment
Yes.
before that piece. Okay, my bad. Sorry. Okay, I'll wait.
Don't worry about it. And is there anything else you'd wish to address to the board at this time, sir?
No, just that my folks told me that our town is doing great on the lights, and they beat out Loveland in their opinion. So I just wanted to congratulate the town on such a good job with the
Thank you,
lights.
sir. Does anybody else wish to address the Board of Trustees at this time? Madam Clerk, do you see anybody?
I don't, sir. No one's got their
Thank you.
raised up.
Item 5 on the agenda is a resolution 2020-183. Could you please read that into the record, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Resolution 2020-183, a resolution of the Town of Lyons, Colorado, ratifying and approving Resolution 2020-165, a resolution of the Town of Lyons, Colorado, for 0 Carter Drive, Lyons Valley Park, scheduling a Board of Trustees public hearing for consideration of final approval of the modified development plan for 0 Carter Drive, Lyons Valley Park Incorporated.
Thank you. Are there any comments by the Board of Trustees? Yes, Trustee Lowell.
Just a point of order. I know that this public hearing and this meeting is for 0 Carter Drive, which would only encompass the 4 multifamily townhomes. Are we going to address at any point the total affordable housing development and some of the issues that are inherent in that? Or are we restricted tonight to just the multifamily? I only ask that because on the October 19th meeting, it seemed like we talked about more than just the modified multifamilies. We talked about a lot more. And I was hoping that tonight we might be able to address other issues that include the totality of the entire development. How are we going to handle that?
Counselor, I know that you were going to address this under the review of process, but could you address that now, please?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little confused. I mean, this is a consent agenda. So I guess the question, I think the proper order would probably to pull this from consent, then discuss it, just because it was labeled under consent agenda. So I think we need a motion to approve the consent agenda. A second, if someone wants to pull it, then discuss it.
Okay. All right. Then that's what we'll do. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there anybody that wishes to withdraw a consent agenda item?
I assume Trustee Lowell, you wish to pull this to discuss?
Yes, I do, but I am looking for the consent agenda to see exactly what needs to be pulled. Do I need to make a formal motion for that?
So I wish to pull resolution 2020-183.
I wish to pull resolution 2020-183 for future discussion.
Okay. So, Counselor, there's one item on the consent agenda. We've had a motion to pull it for discussion. We also have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Normally, we have more than one item on the consent agenda, therefore we can approve the motion and then speak to the item that was asked to be pulled from the consent agenda. since this is the only item on the consent agenda,
The
what
motion
is
is
the
moved.
proper process, sir?
Yeah, the motion is moot because there is no items to approve.
That's exactly what I thought. Thank you very much.
Sorry we have to go through this, but it's trying to
Thank you very much,
process
Counselor.
clear.
Okay, so Trustee Lowe.
So just to be clear for the record, we are now discussing resolution 2021-83, which was pulled from the consent agenda. So,
Okay, and you wanted to discuss, Trustee Lowe?
I think I made my sentiments known when I first spoke, that I believe that there are some issues regarding not only the multifamilies, also the 24 single families that needs to be addressed by the Board of Trustees. And, you know, I remain a little confused because the information that we got, the staff referrals, I mean, they have entertained and responded to comments on the entire development, and they pass those forward to us. I'm also looking at a fiscal impact study, and I'm looking at a traffic study that encompasses the entire development rather than just those which are going to be on tract A. I just think we need an opportunity to discuss or reach some agreement or just summarily approve of some of those issues of the entire affordable housing development.
And Counselor, isn't that to take place at a future meeting? But go ahead and
yeah, so if I can address
Go ahead.
questions and also kind of the purpose of this resolution. So this resolution is merely confirming the process which the board decided upon on October 19th, which is the scheduling of one public hearing to hear the amendment to the development plan itself. As you recall, that development plan was just for the multifamily pieces of the development. And this is an amendment to that development plan. So therefore, it is just for the multifamily pieces. Now, you're correct to say that, there is a larger development here, and the development plan agreement, which is the agreement, dedicating the utilities and promising to build the utilities for the entire project, will be up for the board's consideration on January 4th, 2020. And that's really, if there are issues with the non-multifamily pieces of this project, that's really the relevant place to bring it up. It's not a public hearing because it's a contract, but the public is, of course, willing to discuss it during audience business. If they have written comments beforehand, they can, of course, submit those to the board for consideration as well, to be included in the public record. But that's really where, those other pieces are relevant. I mean, here we're just talking about the design of the multifamily components of the development. That's all the development plan standards that are in the code, are applicable to. They're not applicable to single family homes, only multifamily.
Trustee Lowe.
Thank you, counsel. Thank you for clearing that up. I was not aware that there was going to be a January 4th meeting to discuss the entire development. So then I would ask you, because there seems to be a fair number of people on the Zoom meeting tonight, are we going to entertain comments during the public hearing that would address some of the other issues besides the multifamily? Because as you say, there's apparently going to be no public hearing at the January 4th issue. So I guess my question is, when do residents get to have their say?
So residents can speak to any issue they'd like to during the public hearing. However, only those that are pertaining to the multifamily units are relevant for the purposes of this proceeding. Residents can speak to the board at any meeting in the board about this issue. They can speak on the January 4th meeting to the board about this issue during audience business. They can submit written comments to the clerk if they so which will be can be read into the public record. There's multiple ways to address this issue outside of this process. We can't stop anyone from saying what they wish during the public hearing. But however, only the things that are relevant are those as pertain to this amendment, and which includes only the multifamily pieces.
Thank you for that clarification.
Are there any other questions? Counselor, now we do have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
Well, I'm sorry, Mary Angela, it's confusing because there's just only that one item.
Okay,
So we need a motion and a second to approve resolution 2020-183 if there's no further questions.
that's right. Do we have that motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of 2020-183, a resolution. Any further comments? If there are none, I'll call for the vote, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Angelo,
Aye.
Tim Browning,
Aye.
Trustee Waugh.
Aye.
Trustee Caravas,
Aye.
Trustee Rogan,
Aye.
Trustee Lowell,
Aye.
and Trustee Miller.
Yay.
Resolution 2020-183 passes unanimously. Item 6 on the agenda is public hearing resolution 2020-184. Could you please read it into the record, Madam Clerk?
Yes, it's the public hearing for Resolution 2020-184, a resolution of the Town of Lyons, Colorado, approving or denying an application for a development plan for 0 Carter Drive, Lyons Valley Townhomes, LP.
Let's see, number 1 is Town Attorney's review of the process.
Thank you, Mayor Angela. So we already kind of went over some of this in the last agenda item, but this is a public hearing, so to make it perfectly clear what the order of business is, we provided as part of this agenda item the full kind of listing of the items we will proceed. I'm going to start with a kind of introduction of what the rules of the game are, but then beyond that we will have a staff report, board questions, an applicant's presentation with board questions, the public hearing where the public will be invited to speak on this issue, applicant rebuttal if they so wish to anything that's been said previously, and then to close the public hearing, at which point the board can begin their discussion with a motion in a second, and then we'll have a decision. And any, of course, amendments that may be made. We already kind of covered the other piece I was going to get into, which is this is just for the amendment itself to develop the previously approved development plan, which only deals with multifamily housing on tract A. And so really the only things that are relevant to this are issues affecting the multifamily housing portion of the project. And so, why I can't stop anyone from saying what they would like. The only things that should be considered by the board as part of their decision are those things which are relevant towards the multifamily housing. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time about the process.
Are there any questions for Counselor at this time? Seeing none, let's move on to staff report.
And I think Yanni's going to give the staff report.
Yanni?
Yes, I am. I'm trying to start my video. Sorry about that. Town Clerk Vasquez, I think you need to allow me to start my video. Thank you.
Here we go.
Hello. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Yanni Jones. I work in the Community Development Department, and I will be presenting the staff report for the Lyons Valley Townhomes Development Review Project. I'm going to share my screen now. Can you see the presentation for tonight? Okay, thank you. So I would like to begin with just providing a little bit of background on the process. So in July of this year, the Board of Trustees passed Ordinance 1085, which modified Lyons Municipal Code 1617, which relates to site plan and development plan review. So the initial proposal from Summit Housing Group and for the Lyons Valley Townhomes project was submitted in March and approved by the PCDC under that prior code. And they were the final decision maker at that time. Then later, the Board of Trustees approved the development plan agreement for that proposal. However, Lyons Valley Townhomes has modified their project more than 10%. Under that previous code, that would have been considered a new application and would have been required resubmission, similar to what is happening now. Under the current code, the Board of Trustees was allowed to, or was given the authority to determine the extent of that review process for the new submission. And you all decided to require this public hearing and forego the PCDC recommendation part of the process. So tonight, you are all the final decision maker for this development plan review. And I'm sure you're all familiar with this, but to provide some context, the development plan before you today is from Lyons Valley Townhomes LP and Summit Housing Group. And this development plan is for some affordable housing to replace some of the affordable housing stock, which was lost during the 2013 flood. And as I stated before, this process is happening because of modifications to their development plan that was originally accepted that exceed 10% changes. Here's a map to sort of orient you all spatially. And this slide is meant to emphasize the most significant changes between that original submission and this new submission. So those changes include the reduction in the number of multifamily units from 21 to 16 in this new submission. The single family units have also increased from 19 to 24. A private drive called Sullivan Drive, seen up here in this top photo, has been removed, and parking has also been reconfigured, as you can see. And just to reiterate, tonight for your review is you're just considering the multifamily units in Tract A. This project does align well with a number of the goals of our guiding planning documents, including the 2010 Comprehensive Plan and the 2014 Recovery Action Plan. As you can see, there are a number of elements of the 2010 Comprehensive Plan that relate to affordable housing and making efforts to increase the affordable housing stock in Lyons. There is also alignment with some of the sustainable design and development guidelines, such as encouraging a variety of housing types. So a multifamily development aligns with that, as well as fitting within and enhancing the environment, such as maintaining historic drainage patterns and minimizing grading. This project also aligns with the Sustainable Design and Development standard for creating inviting public spaces. It does include, for example, a community park. Throughout this process, beginning before March, there have been a number of community concerns that have come up. And these next few slides sort of go over those thematically. The bolded text is sort of a category of concern, and then the text beneath is a response. So there were a number of concerns about density and visual impact of this project, specifically, and initially in the March proceedings, the number of multifamily units was reduced in response to community comments. And this time, the number of multifamily units is reduced further to 16. Regarding the views from adjacent neighborhoods, there has been an effort to avoid impact to the hill and preserve open space. And the reconfiguration on Tract A further improves those views for the adjacent neighborhood. The colors and materials that will be used on this project are also compatible with those elsewhere in Lyons Valley Park. There were some concerns also surrounding lighting, and the photometric plans provided by the applicant indicate that lighting would not intrude on adjacent developments, and the lighting is also dark skies compliant. There were a few concerns about traffic. The roadways for this development were designed and approved for 7.7 units per acre in density, and the proposed density is significantly lower than that at 4.19 units per acre. The town engineer and CDOT also approved the traffic, approved of the plans, reviewing the traffic analysis. And the town is purchasing some temporary speed bumps to use as needed for this project. There were some concerns related to drainage. The subdivision is designed to meet the drainage criteria of the town, including those in the Stormwater Master Plan from 2017. And there's been further design of a detention pond included in this resubmission that further aligns with the Stormwater Master Plan. There were some other concerns about finances. And for the March proceedings, the town finance director provided a statement essentially saying that the Board of Trustees oversees the budget and make sure that it is balanced and accounts for unexpected expenditures. And it's not expected that this development and adding these units would significantly impact or increase taxes or reduce services for others in town. There was also some concern about the sewer plant capacity, and town utility director Aaron Kaplan sort of assuaged those misgivings in his comments by saying that there would not be a concern for copper and waste in the wastewater system or high levels of BOD expected from this development, and the sewer plant does indeed have the capacity to handle the additional homes. We, as part of this process, sent out the plans for this development to a number of referral agencies, and a number of them came back with no conflict or no concern, and a few of them just provided some general comments for reminders for the applicant as they move forward. Some of the referral comments have been addressed in recommended conditions of approval from staff as well. For example, the South Ledge Ditch / the Lukanen, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, family. Was that right? Okay, great. Was concerned about maintaining access to their property, and that has been addressed in a recommended condition. And as Councillor Dittman emphasized earlier, some of these comments are also will also be more relevant for the discussion on January 4th for the development plan agreement. So there are comments from the Ecology Board related to remediation and bank restoration that will be more appropriate for that time as well. As you can see, we also heard from the Parks and Recreation Commission about maintaining a trail and also some concerns about the landscape management plan. And the school system offered a comment of no concern. They believe that the development will not have a negative impact on the school district, and the schools will be able to handle the increased influx of students expected. And Excel also provided just a couple of reminders for the applicant. There were a number of comments that were received outside of the referral period from above, and those are summarized here and on the next slide. Those came from the Ecology Advisory Board as well as the Parks and Recreation Commission. You can read over some of those here. A number of them relate to concerns about drainage, as well as open space and trails. Several of these concerns are also addressed in recommended conditions of approval from staff. And here are the comments from the Parks and Recreation Commission as well for your reference. These are also in the staff report. So moving on, I'm going to go through the development plan review criteria from Lyons Municipal Code 161720. And rather than going through all of them one by one, I will tell you that this project substantially conforms to them, and I've highlighted the areas where there is some amount of deficiency, and I will discuss that. So number one, all information required on the site plan and development plan is shown. There are several minor elements that are missing, and those are addressed in a recommended condition of approval, and that includes things like putting the address on the cover page and things like that. Moving on, number 6D. This relates to, if you look at the second part of this criteria, the applicant shall enter into cooperative agreements with adjacent property owners to share access. So under this criteria, staff is requesting as a condition of approval, allowing an easement for the Lucanans to access the property that they need access to. Number 8 has to do with the interaction between vehicles and pedestrians and maintaining safety. So as a condition of approval, staff is recommending that the applicant identify no parking zones on Carter Drive and plan to stripe those to reduce that kind of conflict. And number 13 is the same as number 1 for some reason. But so again, there are a few small items on the site plan or development plan that are missing, and I'll address those more specifically momentarily. So we as staff believe that the development has significantly achieved the criteria for approval of a development plan. And we recommend that the Board of Trustees conditionally approve the development plan with these conditions. So number 1 relates to the existing development plan agreement, resolution 2020-66, just maintaining that it is still in effect with whatever conditions may be added. Condition 2, we recommend that the applicant update that development plan agreement, which as we've discussed is already planned for that January 4th meeting. Number 3 is related to bike racks. The plans submitted by the applicant do include bike racks, actually more than what is requested in this condition. However, there may be a conflict between those using those bike racks and cars in the parking area due to the proximity of those two things. So we're requesting that there be some sort of way for bicyclists to access the road directly rather than having to go through the parking lot. Condition number 4, again, is that easement for the Lucanans. Number 5 is a general statement just saying that the project should conform to all relevant local, state, and federal regulations. Number 6, again, refers to the development plan agreement and that provision maintaining permanent affordability. Number 7 relates to the applicant installing bear-proof trash bins outside. Number 8 kind of relates to that concern from the Parks and Recreation Commission about the landscape maintenance plan. and just making sure that that gets refined and finalized. Number 9 addresses some of the concerns about drainage that the Ecology Advisory Board had, and some other issues with the drainage report from the previous submission that need to be addressed. So it just states that the certified drainage report, the final version, must reflect the comments from the town engineer and be accepted and approved by the town engineer. Number 10, the applicant will prohibit the use of STRs in these units. Number 11 and 12 relate to those missing items from the site plan. And these are just the address, the legal description, and labeling the zoning for the proposed development, as well as the adjacent properties. Number 13, we have some details for the streetlights proposed for this submission, but we would like to make sure that we receive details with the 7-pin specs for the town to review and accept, or the town engineer to accept, I should say. Number 14, as I mentioned before, we'd like the applicant to identify no parking zones on Carter Drive and stripe them to reduce the conflict between pedestrians and vehicles, and to ensure access to fire hydrants and the like. And lastly, number 15 relates to accessibility. It requests that the applicant create curb cuts to encourage accessibility for those with strollers or people in wheelchairs. So tonight, your role as the Board of Trustees, you have a few options. You can either approve the development plan through Resolution 2020-184 without conditions. You may approve it with conditions. You may choose to continue the development plan review to request additional information from staff or from the applicant, or you may choose to deny the development plan through Resolution 2020-184, the denial version. And that concludes my staff report.
Are there any board questions for Yanni at this time? Trustee Lowell.
Thank you, Planner Jones, for that. I read through the presentation, and you've clarified some points for me. I'm not sure you're the proper person to answer this question that I have. I'm looking at the financial, and I see the statement from the town finance director that it says, it is not expected that by adding these units, the residents of Lyons will incur significant tax increases or decreases in service. And I assume that you're talking about all 40 of the units, not just the townhouse units. As I look through the BBC financial impact, I see that each unit will pay $251 in property tax revenues to the town. And BBC's analysis also shows that every town fund shows a negative net fiscal impact from the building of this affordable housing. Let me just say, I am totally for providing housing for our workforce here in Lyons. But I will tell you, I'm a little less enthusiastic about subsidizing affordable housing for people who merely just wish to live in Lyons. I note that in Summit's document here, it does say they're expecting an in-migration rate of some 50% in order to fill these units. So I guess what I'm looking for is a little more clarity on exactly how much this is going to cost the residents of Lyons, and whether it is in fact going to be insignificant or significant increases in our taxes. So that's my question. I'm not sure that Planner Jones is fully prepared to answer that. And I don't see Finance Director Johnson here. So I'm not sure I can get an answer to that tonight.
Thank you for that question, Trustee Lowell. And you're correct. I'm not prepared or qualified probably to answer that question myself. I did reach out to Finance Director Johnson to ask if she was available to be here tonight, and she's not, unfortunately. If you would like, I can pass on a question to her, and I can try to find an answer if that is so desired.
Thank you. That would be helpful, or I guess I could address it directly to Director Johnson, perhaps at the January 4th meeting. Maybe that would be more appropriate since it appears we're dealing with the financial impact of all 40 units and not just the townhouses we're discussing tonight. So I will take that as an action item to talk to her, but thank you for the offer.
Of course, and I'll make sure that we invite her to that meeting as well.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Madam Clerk, no further questions that you can see?
I don't see anyone with their hand raised, sir.
Thank you. Applicant presentation, Mr. Snow.
So just logistics here. Did you guys want me to share the PowerPoint? Is that the easier way to go about it? Okay, I can do that.
I say yes.
Okay. Let's see here. That is, if I can figure out how to do that.
I'm sorry to butt in here. Did we just pass by public comment? Oh,
No.
okay. Sorry, my fault.
Okay, let me see. Here we go. You guys see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. All right. So a lot of this is going to be, some background information on us. I'll get through that pretty quickly and then, focus on some of the deal specific items, for you guys. I know some of you have heard this, but for those that that haven't, we'll go through this. So again, this is just a little bit about Summit. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here. We build these affordable housing projects in multiple states and multiple regions and have a, fairly large presence in Colorado with another deal that we just closed in Broomfield that's not even on this list.
Mr. Snow, sorry to interrupt you, but I think that your presentation is not sharing properly. We are not seeing your slides advance.
So you can't see it?
We see the PowerPoint main screen. Your start presentation is not displaying for us. So we're still seeing your cover page.
Okay.
You may want to touch the presentation button in the bottom right. That looks like a little projector screen. That moved it. We're still seeing your upcoming slides on the left, but we can see it now.
Okay, you can continue. Oops.
That better? Do you see that? Do you see that now?
Yes.
The second slide. Okay, great. Again, a lot of you have seen this before. This is our project right down the road in Longmont that used the same disaster recovery funds that was built, I think finished in 2017. Another similar type of project and just a look and feel of how obviously this is a little bit different project with the single family and the fourplex, but you can get an idea of some of the qualities of finishes that we use. Again, very similar product in Wyoming, all in, kind of cold weather towns. So we're very, very, very familiar with the development process in these areas. And then lastly, a kind of more urban design that we've done in Utah. So a little bit about the deal. We've got a total of 40 units. Obviously, the main focus this evening is on the 16 multifamily fourplexes. You can see some information there about the rental rates. There's a little bit of difference in the utility allowances for in between the 2-bedroom single family and multifamily. So there's a slight difference in rent, but it's minimal. We are using 60% AMIs for 100% of the units on this project. And they will all be, 2-story walk-up fourplexes. Just some basic amenities for the project, some on-site manager's office, playgrounds, community gardens. Obviously, especially on this multifamily site, there is a large amount of that site that's not being utilized and can be utilized for other open space purposes, patios, balconies, heating and cooling, and then your typical unit amenities will be part of each of these units. We are required to utilize under CHAFA regulations to build to an enterprise green community standard. And that would be for 100% of the units on site. Some of the characteristics are water conservation, Energy Star, windows that have a higher efficiency. And then some of the other characteristics are low VOC products and formaldehyde free. A lot of the green characteristics that you guys would see normally will be part of this project. Development budget, we're at roughly about $14.5 million. We've got about $7.2 million in permanent bonds from CHAFA. We've got the tax credit equity at about $3.6 million and $4 million in disaster relief funds. And then we are deferring half of our fee at about $670,000 there for the financing stack. A little bit about how we got here, and I know we covered this in the staff review a little bit too, but we did win an RFP back some time ago. We were originally discussing rezoning the entire multifamily site to get to 40 units of density. That proposal was very not well received. And we made some changes to that. If you go back a little bit in time, some of the single family lots were under contract during that time. And we were a little bit limited on what we could do for some period of time. Once those became available, we talked to the land seller. Those units or lots became available, and we were able to shrink the density down on that multifamily site and do something that was a little more palatable for the neighborhood. And obviously we were 21 units when we originally got approved, and now are coming in to reduce that a little bit more. Obviously our largest concern with the multifamily site has been the site work involved with that site. There's just a tremendous amount of topography once you get away from where Carter Road is, and by removing Sullivan Way and removing the buildings that were higher up on that hillside, we've significantly decreased the the construction costs for that site specifically. Here's some basic design information for these fourplexes. Again, they're it's very rudimentary at this point, but for these pictures, just typical fourplex walk-ups, All of these buildings are pretty much the same at this point. There was a little bit of differential in the original submission because there was a 5-plex in there, but there's 4 plexes only. Oh, sorry, did somebody have a question?
Yes. I saw in the referrals from staff that there was a possibility of future development. Is that realistic, sir?
I would say future development on the lots that we aren't using. So we do own, I think 2 or 3 additional lots along Carter that could certainly be built out at some point in time.
That's not what I'm talking about, because that's not the discussion
Okay.
that we should be talking about this evening. I'm talking about on Outlot A. And the reason I ask is originally there were additional units. Is there any way in the future that you see? It's a yes or no answer, basically. Maybe building another 4-plex in there?
Technically, it would be possible, yes. Would it be affordable and under the tax credit program? Probably not.
Okay.
Only because of some of the land use restrictions and covenants, and building 4 units under the tax credit program would be nearly impossible, just from a financing stack perspective. We could carve out some portion of that up higher hill and try to do something. So I think technically it is possible. Would it be something we would look to do? I just don't know the financial feasibility of it.
Okay. I was thinking that in the future, if you have the financial capability, or every single unit is rented out 100% of the time, that maybe you could reconsider that.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to never say never as it relates to development, but there obviously is enough of land to do that. But it really would come down to what kind of financial stack you could come up with at that point in time, on whether or not that would be something that would be attractive to us or to some other developer.
Okay, so you've made the determination then, and I don't want to delve into the other units, but you've made the determination to take out one of the multifamily units and service the need of the town and reach your 40 unit threshold by another strategy, basically.
That is correct. Yeah, we
Okay.
felt that site was so cost prohibitive as you got further up the hill, that this was, in our opinion, I don't even know if it's really much of an opinion at this point, because we've got the construction numbers to prove it, that this was the way to get the 40 units that we promised to the town, built under this program.
I got you, and it's a matter of economics. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I have another couple of questions that were brought to my attention. Terms of your leases?
So the tax credit program allows a minimum of 6 months. We require 12 months.
And because you're experienced in the business, what is your turnover rate?
Well, that's a good question. It does vary a little bit town by town and project by project. Our turnover rate in Colorado is very low. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. We do have some more rural markets where it's a little bit higher. But I would anticipate this to be pretty low, maybe, south of 15% annually.
Good. I think that's terrific, because we have, a senior housing project in town, and I know that there are several residents that have lived there since it was built, sir. And we have a waiting list that is phenomenal, to be perfectly honest with you. My other questions would be the detention pond. How big is the detention pond?
I don't have the plan in front of me, and I'm not sure if our civil engineer is on this call or not, but it's my understanding that it is actually maybe even slightly oversized than what has been what was needed, and that was more of a function of not redesigning and things of that when we took some units off the lot.
Okay, and Carter Drive's two-way?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't have any further questions. Can you take your presentation off the screen?
Sure.
so that I can see everybody? Do any other board members have questions for the applicant? Trustee Lowell.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Snow, for being here tonight and taking questions. Mine are really very simple. In your description, you indicate that there'll be an on-site manager for, I assume, all 40 units. Again, we're delving into something beyond the scope of this hearing. But with that on-site manager, is he the one who's responsible for vetting people as to income? And the second part of that question is, should any of the tenants go over the allowable 60% AMI? Do you evict them? Do you give them 3 months? How does that work?
Sure, that's a really good question, and that's a compliance issue that we deal with and go through on a daily basis on all of these projects. So the short answer to your first question, which was the on-site manager, they would be the first line of defense, meaning they would be accepting those applications and taking the information as it relates to the incomes. And then we pass that on to an in-house compliance person that we have on staff. That's more of a corporate employee as opposed to an on-site management staff. And then we once that's been through our internal compliance department, we have a third-party compliance department that we send out. They're actually based out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and they do a final review of the file to ensure that all of the residents that we put into the complex, not only initially but as turnover does happen, we go through the same process every time, so that we're assuring that the residents that are being put in place, meet the criteria. So that's first part of your question. We've got kind of 3 layers that we go through as a compliance, and the reason we do that is the compliance of these things is the most important part about what we do at the end of the day, because it's where we could really get ourselves into financial troubles if we're not compliant with the regulations of the IRS and in turn CHFA. And so that's a big thing for us and why we spend a lot of time and effort there. The second part of your question is what happens if they go over income. And so the IRS section 42, which is the section of the IRS code that envelops the tax credit program, does allow for someone at 60% AMI to go over that and still remain in, as long as they were in it when they were initially leased up. They are allowed to go up over it by some percentage and still remain in their unit. So that's an IRS code. We follow the rules. We don't make them kind of deal. But there isn't a trigger for eviction if you go over that, which I think is probably a good thing in the long run. And I don't think it's something that typically gets taken advantage of.
I've just got one more follow-up question. So because you have an on-site manager, we're really not talking about 40 units for rent. We're only talking about 39, correct?
So the on-site manager, I believe, is an on-site manager's office. I don't believe that we have an actual live-in unit for them. We do that on some cases, but with our property in Longmont that's got 2 manager units down there, we felt like we probably didn't need that presence quite as much, just because of the short distance. And to be perfectly honest with you, our property management group is going to be sharing payroll and staff, whether that's maintenance and assistant managers and site managers, but there will be an office presence on site.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Further questions for the applicant?
Trustee Rogan, sir.
Excuse me, Trustee Rogan.
Thank you. Thanks, Rusty. So a couple of questions. Just to get some context, do you know what the AMI is currently?
I don't off the top of my head, but I could certainly look it up and send it to you. It's the Boulder County is obviously, I think, the highest in Colorado, with second maybe the Aspen area. But so I am not exactly sure what that exact number is, but I can certainly look it up. But for a one person household, I would imagine that it's probably somewhere in that $35,000 range, and then goes up as you add number of households.
Okay. So I think, 60% AMI, I think I heard, and maybe Victoria, maybe off the top of your head, but I think 60% AMI winds up being around $44,000. And so just to give everybody some context, that's what our state house representatives make a year. So, so just for some context there. So 2 questions. The first is, did you consider replacing 4plexes with 5plexes to get more units in the multifamily housing? Is that a possibility?
I don't believe we ever, we did have a 5plex in the original plan. And it seemed, and that was really more of a function of having an odd number of units allowable, which was 21. So when we went down and made this change, it did make more sense to just kind of remove that and then pick up the 4plexes and place them just from a strict design standpoint, and having to not redesign in anything. And really, you're just talking about the civil side of things when it comes to design, while your 4plexes were already designed. From a timing and cost perspective, that seemed like the more cost-effective way to get there. That was the call that we made, and we had the lots on the single family side to make that easy switch, and that seemed like the quickest, fastest, most economical solution.
Gotcha. Okay. So one more question about the leases. Is there anything in the lease agreement that prohibits subleasing?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Further questions?
I can provide the follow-up to the AMI question, sir.
Go ahead, Madam Administrator.
It appears that income guidelines in Boulder County for 60% AMI is an individual making $48,360. A family of 4 can make $69,060.
Thanks.
Any further questions for Mr. Snow? Mayor Pro Tem Browning.
Rusty, just a couple of questions, basically relating to timetable. At one time, I think when the prior board approved this development, I think we were told that the deadline for sending the $4 million grant was end of the year, but it's my understanding that may have been extended somewhat. What is that now?
That is correct. It was extended and it will be extended here again. I think that extension will probably come in once we get over this kind of final hump from an entitlement process. DOH, who's providing the $4 million, is obviously aware of some of the issues that we had from a cost perspective, and has been involved, or we've been informing them of what we've been doing, and are trying to get it to a better place financially. And so that will be extended again. I just think they're waiting on a couple of other things to kind of fall in place before they do it, because they only want to do it one more time. So.
Okay, so has it been extended already past the end of the year, or they're waiting for the result of this hearing?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I think there might even be, it may have expired. I'd have to kind of take a look at it, but they have the ability to go in and extend this another time, which they are willing to do. They're
aware of the timing of this hearing?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Assuming that extension is granted, and if approval is granted tonight, do you have any thoughts about construction commencement date?
Yeah, so we've got, once we get this approval and once we get that extension, then we would be looking at about a 60-day process that we have to go through with CHAFA for the tax exempt bonds. Those have been reserved, I guess is the best way to say that. But they need to go through an inducement, which includes TEFRA hearings and all sorts of other private activity bond requirements. And that process takes about 60 days. And then once that happens, we'll close and commence construction immediately.
Thank you.
Administrator Simonson, you had something to add?
I wanted to add that I did get a phone call from Dave Bowman with the Department of Housing, who did want to confirm that we were on track with this meeting being scheduled and decisions being made. And he did indicate to me that they are planning to extend the deadline, pending the outcome of this meeting tonight. So he did confirm that with me.
Thank you. Any further questions? Now, seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. This is an opportunity for the public to address the Board of Trustees on any item they would wish to bring to our attention. Please help me identify anybody that wishes to speak, Madam Clerk.
I believe Ian Brighton wants to speak.
Of course it does. Mr. Brighton, sir.
Hey, everyone. My video's not working, I guess. Sorry about that earlier. Okay, now there we go. Yeah, sorry about that. I tried to get my kids to bed, so that's probably why I was a little eager to speak earlier, but he's here with me now, so here we go. I just wanted to mention the importance of trying to identify a sustainable trail connection up to the South Ledge Ditch at this point. I mean, that's a very heavily utilized corridor, that benefits the whole town, health, mental and physical health of use of trails, especially in the pandemic is so critical. So I would just urge the board to take a hard look at that and see if they can work with the developer to establish some sort of access up to that ledge ditch that can stand the test of time. Currently, there's a social trail that's developing, and I'm a little concerned that it could cause some resource impact. So if we can get ahead of it, we could potentially save money down the road. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wish to address the Board of Trustees.
Yes, I would. Can you hear me? It's
Melinda Wonder, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I
Go ahead.
can't get the video to work, so I'm probably just on audio.
I just turned it on for you. Try it again, Melinda.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I have two questions real quick.
Name and address for the record, please.
Oh, excuse me, name and address for the record.
Oh, Melinda Wonder. I'm at 320 McConnell. I'm wondering, I know this is a bit late in the game, but I'm just wondering if there's been any discussion about public art, a financial allowance for public art in the development. That's my first question. My second question is, how do we get a copy of the site plan that we can see just like a floor plan of the whole development? Thank you.
You're welcome. I think that Administrator Simonson can address the development plans. I think that we could probably print one out, and I know they're online also.
Melinda, we can make sure you get one.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else wish to address the Board of Trustees?
Yes, this is Laverne Johnson. I'm under Jerry. I want to go with Ian Brighton as to that trail on the South Edge Ditch. It does seem like those folks over there, they're going to be going along there anyway, and we might as well make it handy and permissible. I also want to encourage the board to approve this. We need this affordable housing very bad. We lost 200 people during the flood, and that left like $200,000. And we lost kids in school and for the town, for the events, and these people need a place to live, and I think we should greet them in this project with open arms. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Laverne. Does anybody else wish to address the Board of Trustees at this time?
I would like to speak to the board. This is Dawn
Name
Weller.
and address for the record?
Dawn Weller, 212 Welch Drive. I just want to encourage the board to seriously consider approving this request. The changes that I've made are going to help preserve the view shed. Oops, I'll start my video, sorry. The view shed is going to be preserved. The traffic impacts are much less than originally planned and are within the allowable limits. And the development is well integrated into the neighborhood. This is an important gesture to the people that were displaced during the flood and to making our community more well-rounded. And I encourage you to approve this plan.
Thank you, Trustee Weller. Does
Thank
anybody else wish to address the Board of Trustees at this time?
Hey, Mayor. Yeah, this is John Honeman at 503 Goranson Court.
Yes.
I joined late, but can someone quickly clarify or give me information on whether or not the bank remediation is going to be completed in the development?
That is an issue that will be taken up at the meeting on the 4th of January, sir. This is
okay. So is it a yes or no? That's what I'm looking for.
On Outlot A. This is just has to do with Outlot A.
Oh, okay. Copy. Thanks.
Yep.
And just to remind the public, generally speaking, the board does not respond during public hearing. This is for evidence gathering, not for question and answer. So.
Well, that's fine. Thanks for the clarification, Mayor.
You're welcome. Does anybody else wish to address the Board of Trustees?
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Steve Herman at 316 McConnell.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So just two quick questions. One to follow up on Dawn's comment. There have been several of these meetings, obviously, and it's been discussed about the need and the primary need to bring Lyons residents that were displaced by the flood.
Sir, we can't hear you.
You cut out.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is this better? Okay, I'm closer. Excuse the closeness of my, I would turn my video off because this could be very offensive, but I'm just wondering, so in an earlier meeting that we had, one of the initial meetings, it was discussed that some sort of a report was going to be done, or some sort of research or survey was going to be done about how many of the old Lyons residents would in fact be brought back or intended to come back. I mean, it's been 7 some years since the flood. I'm just wondering if any of that work has been done by the town or the developer, and what that looks like. I'm with Trustee Lowell that all for bringing affordable housing back to Lyons, particularly for the residents that got displaced, but doing it for outlying areas, the Boulder, Longmont, it's less appealing. So I'm just curious to see what percentage roughly do we think is going to be previous Lyons residents. And then the second question or comment is, I noticed in the presentation that there would be no storage units. Is there some kind of a limitation, or where do we expect the residents to store things? I assume inside there's going to be limited storage area as well. I assume some of it's going to be outside. Are there some kind of limitations or restrictions, or how will we kind of mitigate any excess storage out there that might become an eyesore? Thanks.
Thank you. And does anybody else wish to address the board at this time?
Yeah, I do.
Your name and address for the record, please.
Tom Wonder, 320 McConnell Drive. And this is just a clarification, Mr. Mayor. You asked, is Carter Drive two-way? Does that mean there are 2 entrances to it?
The applicant will have an opportunity to rebut. Any further comments from the public?
I would like to.
Your name and address for the record, sir?
Yes, sir. Dave Hachmonji, 200 Welch Court. And I would like to echo Ms. Laverne's endorsement of this project. As a member of the original flood recovery housing task force, I realized that as a town, we have been searching for affordable housing options for a number of years, and beyond or other than the habitat development over there on Second and Park, so far all we've done is we've done a lot of talking but not much walking. And as to whether or not this development would bring in folks from outside of Lyons, folks who were not here at the flood, I personally welcome that. I think the diversity for the town is much needed. Obviously, we've seen a lot of change, a lot of growth since the flood. It all seems to be moving a lot more to the upper income group, and I just think that this town needs a more diverse spread of families and incomes. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments from anybody that wishes to address the board?
I'd like to comment.
Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Andrew Moore, 336 McConnell Drive.
Thank you.
Excited for this development to come to fruition. looking to expand our neighborhood in a way that provides greater diversity. One thing that was brought up several times, but I have not heard an update on, is the goal to create or continue to create dark night skies. And the lighting plan was, I didn't see if that was visible in the platting that was shown in the meeting notes. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Further comments?
I'd like to. This is Debbie Scott. I'm on the plan PCDC too. Can I comment or can I not? I'm not sure.
Counselor, could you answer that, please?
I'm a resident, obviously, so I'll comment as a resident. I just want to make sure I'm not, but I want to comment as a resident. I just want to not do the wrong thing.
Yeah, you can comment as a resident, as a PCDC member. The only issue comes up if we were to somehow be before you again, you couldn't then decide upon it. So if this, for whatever reason, gets kicked back to the PCDC, you may not be able to decide upon it.
I guess okay.
Go ahead.
Your
address for the record.
401 Raymond Court.
Thank you.
I live almost catty corner to the development. I'm for the development. I understand the concerns about how many people who will live there will actually work in town. I also think it's kind of a chicken and egg scenario too. Can't really encourage people to work in town if you don't. Part of people where people choose to work is if they have a job in town, then they can choose to live close by. And I mean, it's not a perfect situation. Like part where you choose to live. I mean, you hopefully if you find a job in town, then hopefully you can move close by and live there too. I mean, I don't think it's you. But also my other comment is that I think every community in Colorado has a responsibility to provide some kind of affordable housing. And in the end, I think it will work out in the end. We'll have more people living in town who also work in town. And I think it's a nice development too. And there's not that many, I know there's been concerns about housing values and things like that, but the number of units is pretty small that I don't think it's going to have a huge effect. And also I think even Mr. Snow was saying that in Colorado, I think affordable housing has been shown to even increase housing values in some places. So that's it. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any other comments for the board?
Yeah, I have one more if I could here. This is Steve Herman again. Just a quick question.
So public comment limited to one round. I mean, generally we do not allow multiple rounds of public comment by a single individual so one individual does not dominate the conversation. And so I would ask for the mayor's ruling on this, but generally we do not allow multiple rounds of public comment by an individual.
If you make it fast, Steve, state your address again and I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. 316 McConnell Drive. Just a quick question. McConnell Drive itself is currently in a pretty big state of disrepair. It's cracking. It should be repaved next year. And I'm wondering, I'm a bit concerned about, a year or 12 months or so's worth of traffic of heavy equipment back and forth on a daily basis, what that's going to do to McConnell Drive, and if the board or the developers considered any remediation there or any fixing after that's complete. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Madam Clerk, do you have some comments to read into the record?
I do, sir.
Okay.
This is from Steve Sims. And he says the overall issue related to the hazard stream bank on the Summit development is not complicated. The stream bank is a hazard. As our community's governing body, it is the town administration's responsibility to safeguard the taxpayers from future financial burdens if possible, thus to make decisions that can help save the town of future expenses. The Ecology Advisory Board was made aware of the St. Vrain Creek Council's efforts in 2017 to restore the hazardous river banking, but later learned the owner, Keith Bell, had forbidden SVCC from remediating the banking. SVCC had already engineered, designed, and had grants to pay for the work. Especially important is that much of this remediation will include town land. Therefore, the EAB respectfully requests that they be included in any and all planning and review of this riparian area. The stream bank is not proper. If remediation is not included as part of the tasks related to the Summit project, the financial burdens will fall to the taxpayers in the future. The time is now to make the proper decision related to this matter. And that was from Steve Sims, Ecology Advisory Board Chairman. I have another one from Jeffrey Baltrush. And his comments are: number one, we appreciate the use of dark sky compliant lighting in the neighborhood where outdoor lights are used. Thank you. Minimizing light pollution will help keep our night skies sparkling. With this in mind, please delete the southwestern street light shown below with the red X on it. It seems reasonable that each cul-de-sac has its own nearby street light. Each building also has local lighting. However, the southwestern street light does not fit into this norm because it is not near a cul-de-sac, nor is it standard building lighting. Its elimination will help minimize light pollution for Lyons Valley Park and Lyons Valley Townhomes residents, as well as anyone who can see into the neighborhoods from other parts of Lyons. Number two, traffic controls for McConnell Drive and Carter Drive intersections are needed. Please add stop signs to each intersection between Carter Drive and McConnell Drive, illustration included below. I am especially interested in the intersection on the west side of Carter Drive, since my driveway is almost directly across from the Carter Drive entrance. Neighbors on Raymond Court previously requested a four-way stop at the intersection of Raymond Court, McConnell Drive, and Carter Drive, given the limited visibility in each direction on McConnell Drive. Increased traffic from the new homes combined with current neighborhood traffic could be better managed with a four-way stop there. Number three, given the change in the number of multifamily units versus single-family homes, the following calculations need to be updated to ensure the town is properly compensated for the change in plans. School fees will increase due to more single-family homes in the development plan, $353 per multifamily unit and $551 per single-family home. Water shares required will increase due to more single-family homes in the development plan, 0.7 shares per multifamily unit, 1 share per single-family home. Thank you for your time and consideration, Jeff Baltrush. And I have one more. This is from Robert Brackenridge. Hello, Lyons Board of Trustees and Mayor. I provide 3 concerns on the proposed housing development. Note, I am a member of the Lyons Ecology Advisory Board, and these issues have also been discussed in its public meetings, but only part of my comment today is central to EAB's mission. The following is thus provided only from my standpoint as a resident. Number 1, EAB has earlier expressed concern about bank protection for the development lots bounded by the high untreated banks of the post-flood St. Vrain. The response so far from the developer is dismissive. As far as I am aware, the developer is refusing to commit to any action other than to install fencing. This lack of response would not likely be accepted from any other developer seeking development plan approval. The need to treat these banks was recently exemplified by the town's own remediation of similar steep slopes. Excuse me. It's a long letter. Of similar steep slopes a short distance upstream. It is a glaring omission in the present development plan. The time to accomplish such remediation is as development proceeds, not afterwards. The board should not accept the response so far as sufficient. A more substantial commitment is needed. Number two, the EAB earlier raised the issue of the flood hazard shown on the town's stormwater master plan. But town staff and developer do not appear to understand this concern. The response provided about project drainage issues describes a detention pond to be built near the project's eastern boundary, but the issue raised about stormwater is not in this area. Instead, the stormwater plan shows flood drainage from a sizable portion of the Hale Ranch Ridge, traveling downslope through an existing large gully and onto Carter Drive, then along McConnell Drive, and then into the Lyons Valley Park community. The developer will build Carter Drive at this location. Approval of the development plan is approval of their plans for this road. Yet still no response on this. Why not? This matter was raised during the original PCDC hearing on the development. Despite PCDC then insisting that it be addressed, the previous Board of Trustees appealed the PCDC conditions. The conditions were removed and the plan was approved. The development company then determined that the original plan was not economic, and so you have before you a modified version, still with this same identical stormwater issue left unaddressed. This is despite PCDC's determination much earlier that it needed to be addressed. This is not an impossible matter to fix, and in post-2013 flood Lyons for a development partly designed to replace housing lost during that flood, it really must be addressed. Otherwise, why did the town commission the stormwater master plan in the first place, if it is not to be used as intended? Responding to this would be an appropriate condition of plan approval, as per the original PCDC hearing determination. And number three, finally, EAB has requested that the developer be asked to commit to park, open space, recreational use of some park of the interior of Tract A. The response was again dismissive, to the effect that the town already has lots of parkland. This lack of concern and specificity contrasts to that expressed by the town when it approved the Stone Canyon, about 8 acres open space for about 40 homes, and Eagle Canyon, about 21 acres for about 44 home subdivisions. Why the difference? Relevant history. The original plan for a Lyons Valley Park planned community included specific set-aside acreages for parks and open space. Some of this PUD was implemented as agreed to. For example, the steeply sloping Outlot B land above the South Ledge Ditch is now owned by the town. For some reason, however, some major open space parcels never made it to public ownership. For example, the 42-acre parcel that includes our famous Lyons L. It was committed to the planned community and the town of Lyons open space when the Lyons Valley Park development was originally approved, but it remains still today in private ownership. Public access can be blocked at any time. This was clearly not the original intention of the town in approving this development. Partly as a result of these previously approved development plans and an unrealized open space commitments, the present Lyons Valley Park, more than twice as large as Stone Canyon and Eagle Canyon, provides only 1.5-acre pocket park. That park is owned and maintained by the HOA. By its covenants, it is not designated for use of the public. Now 40 new units of housing are to be added. There are no discussions underway with the existing HOA, and the developer has provided no plans for the interior of Tract A. It would be very sensible for an approved development plan to provide the town with this. I urge you to support the EAB's concern. The board could require the developer to complete its design of the Tract A parcel and make this a condition of plan approval. If the interior of Tract A is to instead be the site of more housing, that plan should be shared now. If it is not to be housing, what is the plan for its status? Thank you very much for your consideration of this input and good luck in your deliberations. Sincerely, Robert Brackenridge, 107 Bone Court, Lyons.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you. I'll ask again if there's anybody else who wishes to address the Board of Trustees at this time. Seeing none, Mr. Snow, it is your opportunity to rebut, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I am going to try to read some of these off here and make sure I'm hitting them. But so I heard a couple about the lighting, and I believe that, and Yanni, maybe you can reinforce this, but I believe that that is one of the conditions of this approval would be to provide a comprehensive lighting package, which includes specifications for dark skies. So I think that is and will be covered as part of that. And that's not necessarily part of this approval, but for us to receive a building permit is, I believe, what the condition reads. Storage, I heard once. We do have storage on the interior of the units. We just don't have extra storage on the outside of the fourplexes. So there is additional storage, not closet space, but actual storage within the units. So that was a better fit for the limited land space than adding additional storage units on the outside of the buildings. And as far as policing the clutter, that's obviously something we do as a management company, but I can't speak to any requirements that the town may have for that. I heard a comment about art. We would be more than happy to review any of that as part of this plan. We're more than happy to help provide locations and support for anything that's locally sourced as it relates to art. Feel free to get our information about how my information about how we could help with that. We're certainly open to anything like that. There was and I think one of the larger questions that I had, at least that we can address this evening, was about the community and the residents and the disaster recovery victims and local Lyons residents. And so I think the one thing to keep in mind is and I heard a couple of folks talk about this, while the disaster recovery board may not have a as long as list as they had years ago, we are required as per the disaster recovery funds to give preference to all of these units to anyone who can prove and provide information that they were displaced as part of the disaster recovery. So that's point number one. As it relates to providing local residents in the town of Lyons, we did have some conversations with the Division of Housing. There are federal funds as well as disaster recovery funds. So we do have some restrictions after the initial preference to the disaster recovery, meaning we cannot, due to fair housing issues, pinpoint local groups and say, you're going to get this information and nobody else is going to get that. That's something that we cannot do. But what we can do is, prior to us, putting the pre-leasing and marketing package out, we are able to provide, Victoria or someone on her team or staff information that can be pushed out to the local community on a more local level to give them information as it relates to when the pre-leasing starts, and then any kind of other additional information that might be helpful to that local residents, and which would kind of the intent of that is to give, you know, the local residents a little bit of a head start, for lack of a better term, you know, on when these units come available. Unfortunately, and there isn't anything that we can do about it, if we've got, you know, two people that submitted at the same time and they, you know, they both qualify, then, you know, it is first come, first serve at that point in time. And we don't have a lot of flexibility due to the federal funds. And again, that's after the disaster recovery victims. And then I think that was all I heard. There was obviously some other comments about things that we can't or shouldn't discuss tonight, but I think that was about it. And I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Are there any additional questions? Trustee Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Mr. Snow, I wonder if, could you address some of the concerns or the concern that we heard about how the rest of Tract A is going to be handled, whether that could possibly be designated as open space or community recreation or something in that light?
So there's certainly nothing prohibiting it to be that way. I'm sorry, Trustee Wall, did you want to?
Yeah, I have a point of order. Are we still in the public hearing or are we in board discussion?
Counselor, should I close the public hearing?
We can close the public hearing if we ask questions. I mean, technically, once we've closed the public hearing, no new evidence should be gathered. So I think if you have questions for Mr. Snow, now would be the right time to do it.
Okay.
But then once it's concluded, then the public hearing should be closed at that point.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So would you like me to answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there's certainly nothing restricting us for you know, utilizing that land for other things. Obviously, you know, our design stays away from it for particular reasons because of the topographical issues on the site and things of that nature. So we don't anticipate you know, utilizing that land for any other future development. Again, we had the conversation. It's not totally off the board, but it would not be something that we would look at least not under my recommendation, just because of some of the issues that we, you know, we ran into when we originally designed it that way. So I do think that there's some ways for us to do all of that. I will state that if that's something that is of interest, that it would be best to be done prior to us closing, only because the land use restriction that's required as part of our tax credits compliance is based on the legal description. And we just have, I mean, we could amend it, but it's just always easier to kind of do that beforehand than after. So I don't have any real reasoning to not explore something like that, but it's not something that we would want to build or develop. And if it is part of that land use restriction, then it would be closed off to the public. And that is a federal guideline as it relates to the tax credits, meaning we can't have a public park on our site that tax credits was used for.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and open it for further board discussion. Is there anybody on the board?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think a motion and a second to begin open discussion would be appropriate.
That's not what it says on my agenda. It says close public hearing, and it says board discussion.
Yeah, I think that's an error. I mean, usually we start all, you know, whether it be an ordinance or a resolution, everything starts with a motion, a second, then discussion. Occasionally we get off track, but that's the proper way to do it.
That's okay. Sometimes we do have discussion first, but that's fine. Do we have a motion? Mayor Pro Tem Browning.
I move approval of Resolution 2020-184, a resolution approving an application for development plan for Zero Carter Drive for the Lyons Valley Townhomes.
Second.
We have 3 seconds. Okay. Any discussion?
Yes.
Pro Tem.
Yes, sir.
Yes, the need for more affordable housing in Lyons has been addressed for many years, dating back to the 2010 comprehensive plan, which, as staff identified at that time, indicated a need for more affordable housing in Lyons, and that was before the flood wiped out so many of our affordable, mostly market rate housing units. So the need here is unquestioned. The difficulty has been in finding an appropriate site, given the near built out stage of Lyons and our local land limitations, and also working within the multiple restrictions that affordable housing financing imposes on a project like this. For a developer such as Summit Housing to thread all those needles and jump all those hurdles and persevere to this point shows a great deal of commitment to this project. It's a developer that has developed quality projects in other communities and has great experience in managing those projects, and not just the ability to build it and how it's initially built is important for affordable housing, but so is long-term management. And I think the experience of Summit in that regard is very important. Like a couple of commenters mentioned, while of course we all support the preference that must be given and should be given to those who were displaced by the flood, beyond that preference, trying to limit this housing to locals is, to my mind, not a desirable objective at all. There's been a lot of discussion in this town, in this community lately, about both economic diversity and racial diversity. Lyons historically has not been racially diverse, and if you limit housing, affordable housing, to prior Lyons residents, you are of necessity limiting the racial diversity of affordable housing. For that reason, I would oppose that limitation. And as also indicated, workforce housing is another term often used for this type of housing, and businesses in Lyons have made it clear that they have great difficulty finding places for their workers to live. It's certainly been the experience of government entities in Lyons, the school district, the town, the library district, in trying to hire people to fill vacant positions, that they have been unable to hire some qualified people because those people could not afford to live here. That's an important contribution to our community, and this project supports doing that. And I strongly favor approving this project as proposed.
Further comments? I'll make a couple. I'm very pleased that people in Lyons will be given an opportunity by Summit Housing to have the advantage of knowing the process that they have to go through to be able to apply. I don't think that has ever been implied that every single unit in the Summit housing project should be for residents of Lyons. That's unrealistic. And I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Browning completely in regard to diversity. The other thing I'd like to state is that the successful projects, through my experience on many Board of Trustees, happen when we have a continual goal through many boards of trustees. And this will be the culmination of the work of many trustees and the Planning Commission. And it is very, very exciting. And I'm really pleased that we're at this point. Are there any other comments? Trustee Rogan.
Thank you, Mayor Angelo. I would like to see more units rather than fewer units, but all things considered, I'm extremely pleased with this. I would like to thank Mr. Snow for his dedication and for his stick-with-itness in getting us to this point. So I would absolutely approve this with the conditions that Yanni explained to us and presented to us, and I'm thrilled to do so.
Any further comments? Trustee Wah.
I'm also very pleased that this is going to go ahead and looks like it's going to go ahead and move forward. I would like to say that at the income levels and the rents that we're talking about, this is not really housing for the type of employees that our businesses need. This is probably twice as expensive as what hourly employees need. So I think we should be happy that we now have more affordable housing, but I still don't think that we have affordable housing. That's no reflection on Mr. Snow and his project. I think it's a good project, but I think that we still have significant work to do in the town. These homes are not replacing mobile homes that were lost and houses in the confluence that were maybe smaller or older homes. This is allowing some people that maybe couldn't afford the market rate in Boulder or in Lyons to move in, but it is not employee housing, and we still have that issue in town. So I just want to be clear on that. I think this is a great thing, but our work is far from done.
Thank you, sir. Further comments? Trustee Miller.
I would just like to concur with all my fellow trustees in expressing my deep gratitude to Mr. Snow and his summit team for persevering through the trials and tribulations it has been. We've already been here once at this juncture, and here we go again. I've been involved in this process since the very beginning of time, and I feel like until I see the earth being dug, I'm not going to jump for joy yet because it's so it's such a tedious process. But the fact that he's persevered through all this and stuck with us shows a lot of gumption. And there's been a lot of other projects that he's done a great job with. One of our biggest issues when we were first exploring affordable housing after the flood specifically was, how do we get a housing authority after the vote was lost in Boulder County? Because a lot of people expressed concern over having Boulder County being the housing authority. So, finding a developer who would also be the housing authority or the landlord essentially is a huge deal. Yeah, I really am thankful for for them, sticking with us. And hopefully we can keep on trucking. I don't know about the 9% tax credits, potentially being able to apply for them for some more affordable housing, so maybe 40% AMI. I know that was discussed back in the day and a couple years ago, and at the time it was due to they could only apply for them every other year, and due to the timing at that time they could only they had to apply for the 4% tax credits rather than the 9% tax credits. But I'm kind of wondering now if they could apply. I don't know how that works. So that would be something that I would like them to look into if they possibly could. I still would like to see that happen for some even lower.
Further comments? Trustee Careless.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rusty, thank you for sitting with us as we approach a new year. We'll be quickly getting on that third year since we originally approved the RFP to you. So thanks for persevering and dealing with us as we go through this. Victoria, you have to remind me of some of this if I get it wrong, but in 2016, the board, we would sit in empty chambers when we all could meet, sometimes till 1 a.m. and sometimes after executive sessions, looking over plots of land. As Mayor Pro Tem Browning indicated, we looked and looked and looked. I think we had a pretty good list, didn't we, Victoria? We had 16, 17, 18 properties looking at, bouncing around. And it gets late when Trustee Waugh and I, the other Waugh, not this one, are scraping the barrel at 12 midnight asking who's got more peanuts left, who's got M&Ms left, who's got cheese left to share snacks because it was getting late. We've worked and worked for this, and I'm glad we've gotten this far and we're going forward with this. Of course, I am voting for this, and what Yanni has listed out, the staff has put together is completely doable. It's on plan, it's in the code. That's great. We'll get it done. I just like to make sure people realize that this isn't done lightly, isn't just thrown into a neighborhood easily. We looked and we looked. Staff worked diligently. They worked all hours trying to find things. We thought we had things found. It fell apart. We had last minute things fall apart. We went round and round and round. And Trustee Waugh Kenyon can realize, because he was at home waiting for Julia to come home, and it was well after midnight. More than once, more than twice, it was pretty much constant through that first, that 2016 board. So we're getting there. It isn't done lightly. Rusty, we thank you. Citizens, we thank you. It's going to get done. Land gets developed. And I know there are concerns about that ledge. Greg, you keep bringing it up. We've had opportunities. They got missed. It is private property, so we'll discuss it in January and see what we come up with. So I look forward to voting for this and moving forward. Thank you.
Further comments?
Sir, can I comment?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I got to stand up for a real quick second. I have had this yellow ribbon on my door. Wendy, does this look familiar? The Lyons Recovery Housing, Affordable Housing Task Force handed out yellow ribbons that said, we're going to have these yellow ribbons until we can bring some people back home. So I've had this on my doorknob for 7 years, and looking forward to when I can take it off and we'll go tie it on a tree out there. But just want to thank everybody for hanging in there with this. It's been a long, long haul, and I appreciate it. Also, we had two questions that really didn't get addressed from the public. One was, does Carter Drive have two entrances? The answers to that is yes. And we do plan to put a 4-way stop on the northernmost entrance or west, I don't know, direction right there, but at Raymond Court. So both of those had not been addressed. And it sounds like we're going to be talking about a streetlight policy on December 21st. So we'll make some decisions about streetlights there following that discussion with the board. But anyway, looking forward to giving you my yellow ribbon, Rusty.
Thank you, Administrator Simonson, for answering the questions and for your perseverance as well. Are there any further comments? If not, I'll call for the vote.
Mayor Angelo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Browning,
Aye.
Trustee Waugh, Trustee Caravas,
Aye.
Trustee Rogan,
Aye.
Trustee Lowell,
Aye. Aye.
Trustee
Aye.
Miller.
and Trustee Miller.
Yay.
Resolution 2020-184 passes unanimously. Were there any action items tonight?
I noted one, sir. It says the finance director is to address negative fund balances and / subsidizing the project. That was by Trustee Lowell.
Okay. Any further items, Administrator Simonson?
I think they are items that will be covered under the development plan agreement that we'll discuss on January 4th. Not seeing anything else pertinent to follow up tonight, other than I will follow up with a site plan for the Wonders, and well, there's several items I'll follow up with residents.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Stay healthy.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Yep.
Yeah, congratulations, Victoria.
Yeah, for sure. Victoria, if it weren't for you.
It's okay. Sorry, I got him. I kind of came unexpectedly. Sorry about that.
No, seriously. If it weren't for you, man.
Yeah.
In this position.
Thanks, Rusty, for everything.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah, Rusty,
everybody.
look forward
Thanks,
to
Rusty.
working
Appreciate it.
through this with you.
Night,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Be well.